Hey guys, Gray here with another Destiny 2 video. It's Thursday, and that means the weekly blog from Bungie is up. We're going to dive into it, but before we get into it, I wanted to give you an update on the Felwinters live quest. The hotfix went live this morning, and it's fixed. You can go complete the quest and pick up your Felwinters live shotgun. There's some footage here of me going and doing it. I'm going to cut it so you don't get spoiled because there's some big lore implications. It's a big story mission, so definitely go check it out for yourself and pick up your shotgun because it is going to go away at the end of the season. So with that, we're just going to dive straight into the blog. There's a lot of stuff to talk about in this TWAB. It looks like they're talking about some weapon archetype changes, some perk changes, as well as some changes to the world loot pool. So let's dive right into it. They say this week at Bungie, something unexpected happened on the way to the moon bunker. Many of you have been chasing a lie. Last week, you began your hunt with Anna, successfully defending Seraph Towers and the Winding Cove, Anchor of Light, and the Rupture, or watched as your fellow Guardians carried the weight. You burned through 1,000 enemies with your trusty shotgun. Sadly, your quest for answers came to a halt on Sunday evening, all thanks to a faulty door on the moon's bunker. Earlier this morning, Destiny 2 hotfix 2.8.1.3 was released, unblocking your journey and finding truth behind the lie. While we hate to see a bug ship, we're excited to right the ship as quickly as possible. Now we look to what comes next. Season of the Worthy is winding down, which means it's time for a round of previews from the team. This week we're hyper-focused on legendary engrams and weapon tuning. So the first part of the TWAB says Decrypting the Future. Last week, we did a deep dive on how loot will be evolving season over season. With the upcoming addition of a max power level to your gear, players have been asking how acquisition methods will be changing. We have a breakdown from the Destiny dev team on how we're keeping the items you earn from engrams and core activities relevant during a given season. They say today we're going to talk about some changes that are coming in Season 11 to the way the world loot pool works. Because the world pool serves as a baseline of legendary gear that can be earned across different activities, we want to update and refresh that pool with meta-relevant weapons, some of which were previously exclusive to specific activities like Gambit or Crucible. This shared pool can also be unwieldy. If you're looking for a specific role on a specific weapon, a pool too large can make it statistically challenging to find, much less with the role you want. Starting in Season 11, it will be curated both for relevance and overall size to strike a balance between the number of rewards and the chance to get a sought-after drop. Every season gear from previous seasons will be added, and any gear that would no longer have a max power level greater than or equal to the current season will be cycled out to ensure that drops are power relevant in the current season. I completely agree with this. This week I was trying to get a Dire Promise hand cannon from the world pool, and it was a pain in the ass. I mean, I had to spend a ton of legendary shards to finally get one that had a decent roll on it. I was stoked when I got it, but it was not easy. They say the world pool for Season 11 will consist of the following weapons. This list is super long, so I'm going to put it up on the screen, but there's definitely some interesting ones in here. There's a bunch of the Vanguard and Gambit weapons that are getting put in here, like the main ingredient, fusion rifle, the outrageous fortune grenade launcher, which sort of leads me to believe we're going to be getting a refresh from those vendors if they're taking some of those guns and putting them in the world loot pool. So that might be exciting and something to look forward to. But I'll leave the list up here for a while so you can kind of look at it. It's pretty long, but it looks like they're bringing weapons from all three core activities that are kind of old and putting them in the world loot pool so they can put new stuff into those activities. They say if you still need a weapon or weapon role from the current Vanguard, Crucible, or Gambit playlists that isn't on this list, go grab it now. So yeah, I guess that kind of confirms what I was saying. Looks like they're going to be refreshing those vendors hopefully next season. That'll be kind of exciting to get some new loot from them. But moving on, they say lock and reload. Alongside the changes to the world loot pool, we have some changes coming to Destiny 2's sandbox. This week we'll be focused on weapons, specifically perk tuning. Here's a quick breakdown from the team on what to expect. They say reload perk updates. We've observed that players lean towards picking perks that increase their damage, like kill clip, or reducing weapon downtime, like outlaw. The damage perks were adjusted quite a while back, but reload perks still don't feel like choices. This tuning pass aims to keep them feeling powerful without being so dominant that no other choice seems viable. First, some information on the stats that impact reload. They say the reload stat scales from 0 to 100 and maps onto an archetype-specific reload animation speed. The reload duration scale. Most weapon perks also apply a small multiplier to the reload animation, so that even if your reload stat is capped, you still see a small bump in the reload speed and the empty reload duration. As they say, it's the same as the above, but only applies if the magazine is empty. They say that because most weapons have fairly high reload stats, decreasing a reload stat bonus from plus 100 to plus 50 will still max out the reload stat most of the time, and so it doesn't slow down the actual reload as much as it seems. So they're just saying that some of these changes might seem a little jarring, but they're actually not as big of a deal because it seems like we're probably going above that 100 cap most of the time. They say the following perks that alter these reload stats are being updated. Outlaw, they slowed it down a little bit. They changed the reload stat from, again, plus 100 to plus 50, and the duration scale from 0.8 to 0.9. So it's just going to be a little bit slower. They changed Feeding Frenzy. This was strictly better than Outlaw, so we're changing functionality to be based on the number of rapid kills. They say functionality changed to increase reload speed based on number of rapid kills up to 5. With 2 kills, it's the same speed as Outlaw. With 3 kills, it's faster than Outlaw. And with 4 kills, it's the fastest reload in the game, excluding Alloy Magazine. They say max possible reload duration scale from 0.83 to 0.8, and max possible reload stat unchanged at plus 100. So they're just kind of adjusting the scaling of Feeding Frenzy a little bit. And it looks like they might be doing the same to Rapid Hit. They say gave a huge amount of reload and stability for very little work front-loaded onto that first precision hit. They updated it so it still feels good, but it isn't quite as powerful. They say they adjusted the stacking bonus to give less benefit for the first hit and more with subsequent hits. So it's just going to give you more of the benefits going to be stretched out once you reach that maximum 5 stacks of Rapid Hit, sort of similar to Feeding Frenzy. Drop Mag, they say the situationally really powerful perk without a massive drawback. It's as good as a perk, but it's in a magazine column. They're going to bring it in line with Outlaw, so they're bringing it to that 0.9 multiplier. And they say Field Prep, just for reference, they say the reload stat gives you plus 50, and it's a 0.8 duration scale. And Alloyed Mag has the duration scale of 0.6. I know that's a ton of numbers to understand. I'm going to have it all up on the screen so you can kind of read along with me. It looks like they're just kind of slowing down the reload perks to make other things seem more viable. But they go on to say, additionally, we're fixing an issue where perks that grant partial weapon ammo did not respect shot count for burst fire weapons. This means that these perks will now work correctly on pulse rifles, fusion rifles, and burst sidearms, so these perks will be more common on those weapon archetypes in the future. They say Slideways, Slide Shot, Ambitious Assassin, Subsistence, Overflow, Lead from Gold, and Clown Cartridge will start to show up on those archetypes, which could be pretty cool. Some of those could be interesting on a pulse rifle. They go on to say General Perk Retuning. They say with opening up space by adjusting reload perks, we also retuned some other underused perks based on our internal testing and perk popularity and effectiveness data found from our internal analytics. Dynamic Sway Reduction adds 10 stability over time in addition to accuracy. This is way more powerful than it sounds. They say they reduce the reticle movement from stability, so now you can tell when it's working. That's actually going to be a huge buff because DSR is already actually low-key a really powerful buff. If you can get that on a 600 RPM auto rifle, it just turns into a laser beam. So if they're going to buff it even further, that'll make it a really strong perk. Pulse Monitor, they say when you take critical damage, you'll be able to switch to your fully loaded secondary or whatever weapon has Pulse Monitor on it. The reload amount they changed it from 0.35 to 1, so you're going to get more ammo in the magazine basically when you proc Pulse Monitor. So they're just giving that a buff all around. That'll be nice because that perk rolls on a lot of weapons. And now they're changing hip fire grip. This one's a little bit complicated if you don't understand how aim assist cones work. They're going to give the aim assist cone a 1.2 times fall off. So basically, when you shoot from the hip, if you're not directly on target, it's going to register as a body shot unless it's perfectly centered of your reticle. They're basically going to add a multiplier to give you a little more leeway if you have hip fire grip on your weapon. So it's going to make it a little easier to hit precision hits when firing from the hip. That'll be a little bit of a buff to the last word. Maybe it'll make it not in the trash can anymore since they nerfed it last season. Maybe it'll be a little more relevant. And for sneak bow, they say it actually makes you sneaky now. It's a stealth buff. Now it doesn't ping the radar when you're shooting. That's actually pretty cool. That could be really useful on a Void Hunter if you're playing a sort of invis build. That would be a lot of fun. So that's a lot of stuff to kind of go over. There's a lot of perk changes in here. Feel free to go back and listen to it again. Again, it'll all be on the screen so you can read along. And I'll leave a link to the TWAB in the description so you can go check these out for yourself. There's a lot of numbers and stuff I don't typically dive into. I try to read the TWAB first so I can sort of give you, you know, the nitty gritty of what they're changing. But they go on to say there's a few new perks coming in next season. They say next season we'll have new perks rolling exclusively on the season of redacted weapons. Additionally, Iron Banner will be receiving 2 new perks on 2 reprised weapons. In future seasons, these perks will begin to roll on other weapons. While we don't want to spoil the fun of discovering and testing the new perks, we'll leave you with the names: Iron Grip and Iron Gaze. We are excited to see the community break down these perks when the new season begins. So that'll be interesting. It looks like we're going to get a handful of new perks next season. And they go on to talk about some upcoming archetype buffs. This should be interesting because there's a lot of weapons in the sandbox, a lot of archetypes that need buffs. They say slug shotguns are underused in PvE because they require crits to maximize your damage, and the precision doesn't reward higher DPS. So they're going to buff slug shotgun PvE damage by 30%. So that'll make them a little more relevant in PvE. They say high impact pulse rifles are underused in the Crucible. While they have a very fast optimal TTK, a TTK was incredibly punishing. You needed 6 crits across the board to get the optimal TTK. They're going to buff the damage from 21 to 22 per bullet, and that'll change it from 6 crits to 5 crits 1 body to kill a Guardian in PvP at most resilience. And they say in analytics, we also found that bows are underused in challenging content, and we've observed that it feels terrible when a bow leaves a red bar at low health, so they're buffing bow PvE damage versus miners by 10%. So just some small archetype changes for next season. They say they have some future archetype updates planned as well. They say they've been evaluating feedback, and while they're not done yet, they wanted to touch on 3 community pain points. Our current goal is to touch on these in Season 12, but we'll be sure to let you know if these plans change. They say sniper rifles. Community feedback has been that Revoker and Beloved dominate, and looking at analytics, they account for 86% of sniper rifle usage in the Crucible. If we include other low-zoom sniper rifles, the number gets even higher. They say they're specifically looking at how zoom translates into ease of use for sniper rifles, and they're investigating changes that make choosing a sniper zoom more of an interesting choice. So not quite sure what they mean by that. I mean, maybe they'll allow us to adjust the zoom on certain snipers. That'd be pretty sweet because it would make... I always prefer the lowest zoom possible on a sniper. They say hand cannons. They're evaluating all of the subclasses, and they say, as an example, they're going to break out 110 hand cannons from all of the others so they can tune the range independently of the others. I think that'd be a good change for 110s. They're horribly slow, so they should have the range to make up for it. And they say adaptive auto rifles are 600 RPMs. They say auto rifles in general are highly represented in the Crucible at the moment, but generally feel balanced. Adaptive auto rifles are a little bit higher, so they're looking at them, and they're not rolling back the buffs. They're just adjusting the tuning to give the other sub-rifles or other sub-archetypes a little room to breathe. So lots of stuff to go over, obviously. Make sure you read up on it yourself so you fully understand it. That's about all they're talking about in the TWAB this week. They talk about some bug fixes. They're, of course, talking about how they fixed the Felwinters lie today, and they want to make sure that you're aware of what's leaving at the end of the season. The bunkers are going away, the 4th Horseman exotic quest, the Felwinters lie quest, and the legendary lost sectors, as well as the seasonal artifact, are all going away in just a few weeks. So keep that in mind and get that stuff done before it goes away. They're also still continuing to investigate error codes, but that's about all they have for known issues. They go on to show the movies of the week, which obviously you can see if you check out the TWAB for yourself. But closing it out, they say, once again, we come to the end of a TWAB together. How many have we shared together now? The last few have been filled to the brim with news on upcoming changes, and we're only a few short weeks until the next season of Destiny 2. Cheers, DMG04. So obviously a ton of stuff to digest in this TWAB. Again, they're nailing us with these TWABs every week that are just packed with changes. So make sure to read it yourself and check it out so you fully understand how things are changing next season. We're getting a lot of changes to how loot is going to work, and it all seems really positive, and it really needs to be. Bungie needs to redeem themselves a little bit with the coming season. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for stopping by. Please make sure to drop a like and consider hitting that subscribe button for me. It really helps me out. But I'll let you go. Make sure to get that Felwinters Lie picked up because it's going to be an absolute beast in the Crucible. Take care. Bye-bye.